After my girlfriend returned from a 1-month business trip with her mail assistant, she finally realized we hadn't contacted each other in a very long time. She had been busy taking her mail assistant to meetings, busy teaching him how to analyze medical cases, busy encouraging him to handle procedures independently. Only when she finally had some free time did she notice that her phone had been completely silent the entire time. She felt strange. Because over the past 10 years, whenever she got angry, I was always the one who took the initiative to apologize and make up with her. But this time she wanted to contact me. Only to discover that not only had her calls been blocked, but even her messages were met with a red exclamation mark. Chapter 1. Just as she was feeling confused, her phone suddenly rang. "Gloria, today's such a huge day. How come you didn't even tell me?" The sound of waves crashing against the shore echoed from the other end of the call. "If I hadn't seen Chris's location on WeChat, I wouldn't have even known you guys were holding the wedding today. How could you not tell me? Has our friendship faded, or what?" Gloria frowned, slightly tightening her grip on the phone. "What are you talking about? What wedding?" her friend continued laughing on the other end. "Stop pretending. Chris looks insanely handsome in a suit. You better explain everything to me later, or I'm seriously never talking to you again." After the call ended, Gloria opened the screenshot her friend had sent. It was a photo from an island wedding. She thought that maybe this was just another one of my attempts to make her jealous by hiring people to put on an act somewhere. Until she suddenly remembered the day 1 month ago when the company lottery had drawn that island vacation package for 2. The host held the microphone and deliberately asked her, "Dr. Gloria, who are you planning to bring along?" Everyone's gaze instinctively landed on me. I was smiling too, looking at Gloria with anticipation written all over my face. But she ignored all the attention around her and answered in a calm tone. "Give it to him. Edgar's been working overtime really hard lately." The male assistant froze for a moment, his face turning red. The co-workers were briefly stunned too, but soon someone started cheering and hyping up the atmosphere again. My best friend leaned close to my ear and lowered his voice. "Didn't you two agree to have your wedding on an island this year?" She could seriously forget, even after being reminded like that. I forced out a bitter smile and shook my head. "It's okay. The promise still stands. I would keep the promise. I would go to the island. And this wedding, I would still hold it." Gloria walked down from the stage with light steps. When she passed by her male assistant's seat, she stopped and smiled faintly. She handed him the envelope containing the travel vouchers, a gentle smile on her face. "This is for you." The male assistant Edgar froze for a second before accepting the envelope with surprise and delight. Then he happily stood up. "Thank you, Gloria. Since Gloria treats me this well, I'll definitely work harder and live up to her trust." After speaking, he even clasped his fists dramatically toward Gloria in an exaggerated gesture. Then he looked at Gloria again, carrying the cheerful boldness and probing confidence unique to young men. "Too bad I don't really have any friends who can go with me. Feels kind of wasteful to leave a couple's package unused. So, how about Gloria comes with me instead?" Chapter 2. The air around them seemed to freeze for a moment. Then came a wave of meaningful laughter filled with teasing implications. My best buddy Boris slammed his wine glass onto the table and immediately stood up ready to scold him. I grabbed his shoulder, pushed him back into his seat, and forced out a slightly stiff smile. "You're already the boss now. If you act like this, what will your employees think of you?" I trust Gloria. She definitely wouldn't agree to it. But the moment I finished speaking, Gloria let out a soft chuckle. "That depends on your work performance." "Yes, ma'am." Edgar gave another exaggerated salute, drawing another round of laughter. Gloria curved her lips slightly as well and walked toward me. "What the hell is this supposed to mean?" Boris barely let me hold him back. His face was full of dissatisfaction as he complained beside my ear. Did she seriously not catch the meaning behind it, or was she never planning to keep the promise in the first place? The four of us have been together for so many years, already back in college. Didn't we all agree we'd hold our weddings together on a tropical island, Louisiana? And I already settled everything. Today's lucky draw was arranged specifically for her. Otherwise, who the hell would randomly put on something like this? And what does she do? She even brought along some irrelevant assistant. The more he spoke, the angrier. He became practically on the verge of slamming the table and cursing. I patted his shoulder. "It's okay. Don't get angry." Seeing me act like this, Boris stopped talking, though his expression became even uglier. Gloria sat down beside me, gracefully gathering the hem of her dress. She seemed to realize something. After glancing at Boris and me, she revealed a gentle smile. Still calm and tender as always. She reached out and placed her hand over the back of mine, her fingertips lightly stroking my knuckles. "There are too many people at the beach, and it's not very safe either. When the new year comes around, let's go to South City instead." I slowly withdrew my hand, avoiding her gaze. "There's no need. I know you're busy." Her fingers paused for a moment. She said nothing more, only curling her lips into a faint smile before pulling her hand back. Meanwhile, Boris was sending messages to someone on his phone before leaning closer to me again. "In a little while it'll be Luciana's turn to give her speech on stage. I told her to bring it up again." I smiled at him and didn't refuse. Chapter 3: Boris, Luciana, Gloria, and I. The four of us had been the best of friends since college. This company was founded together by Boris and Luciana. Back in the early days of the startup, they went through countless hardships before things finally stabilized. Later, once the company was on the right track, Boris repeatedly tried to persuade me, and I eventually agreed to switch jobs and join the company as the deputy director of the public relations department. The work matched my professional background, and we could still hang out together every day. Not long after, Luciana, as one of the founders, was invited onto the stage. Then the host asked whether she had any plans for the second half of the year. Smiling brightly, Luciana stepped up to the microphone, her almond-shaped eyes curving like crescents. She deliberately built suspense, tilting her head as if thinking for a moment. Then suddenly she clasped her hands in front of her chest and announced to the audience, "Next month, I'm getting married." The crowd instantly erupted into cheers and whistles. She turned to glance toward our table. Her gaze landed on Boris, and her voice unconsciously softened yet sounded especially sincere. "We're going to hold our wedding on a tropical island. May Boris and I stay by each other's side for the rest of our lives, our love unwavering till the end." Laughter and applause blended together enthusiastically. Boris's eyes had already turned red, yet he still couldn't help blurting out, "That's way too emotional." Then Luciana suddenly changed the subject, her gaze landing on Gloria. Filled with anticipation, she stretched out her hand, her voice crisp and lively. "Dr. Gloria, do you want to join us too?" My eyes suddenly began to sting. All the spotlights focused on our table. Everyone's attention also fell onto Gloria. Our friends were already prepared, ready at any moment to applaud and offer their blessings. Even the sound engineer had prepared the music in advance, only waiting to press play. The atmosphere was so moving it almost hurt. I turned my head to look at Gloria. The hope that had once faded away gathered inside me once again. But under everyone's expectant gazes, Gloria simply smiled and shook her head. In a relaxed tone, she replied casually, "How can something as important as marriage be handled so carelessly? You guys go ahead first. I'm not in a hurry." Her voice remained as gentle as ever. Yet it felt like a transparent wall, polite but distant. After such a direct response, Luciana didn't press further. She pursed her lips and withdrew her hand somewhat regretfully. But in the next second she lifted a radiant smile again and continued her speech. The storm raging inside my heart finally calmed completely at that moment. All that remained was silence, along with the lingering bitterness echoing within me. Chapter 4: Not far away, Edgar turned his head back slightly, a faint smile curling at the corners of his lips. He sized me up with an amused look. His eyes were filled with undisguised smugness and provocation. I merely nodded at him. I didn't want his suggestive gaze to ruin my mood. For the rest of the day, Boris completely ignored Gloria. Whenever their eyes accidentally met, he would immediately put on a disgusted frown. In the end, it was Luciana who kept trying to start conversations so the atmosphere wouldn't become too awkward. After everything ended, she walked us to the entrance in her high heels, grabbed Gloria's wrist and shook it affectionately while muttering in a low voice, You're just too reserved." Gloria only smiled without commenting. When we drove out of the parking lot, we saw Edgar standing at the company entrance. The night breeze brushed past him, pressing his shirt tightly against his body and outlining the tall, youthful figure of a young man. One hand was tucked into his pocket while the other casually scrolled through his phone. His posture looked relaxed and effortlessly charming. Gloria rolled down the car window. The moment Edgar looked up and saw her, his eyes lit up. He strode over quickly and leaned against the car window. "Glo, why are you still not home yet? Couldn't get a ride? It's too late and no drivers are accepting orders." He shrugged helplessly. After glancing at me, Gloria continued speaking. "I'll give you a ride. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Chris is still here." Edgar scratched the back of his head and grinned broadly, though his feet never moved an inch away from the car. "What's the big deal? It's on the way anyway," Gloria said. Then she turned toward me, her tone gentle. "Our homes are close to each other. I'll drop you off first, then take him home." I looked at her and nodded. Along the way, Edgar chatted non-stop like an endlessly open chatterbox. Whenever he got excited, he would gesture animatedly with his hands, occasionally brushing against Gloria's shoulder. She didn't mind at all. Not only did she not avoid him, she even revealed a faint smile full of helpless indulgence. Listening to the unfamiliar names he mentioned and watching how close the two of them were, I suddenly felt like I was the unnecessary one. After I got out of the car, Gloria leaned her head out the window and called to me. "Go upstairs first. I'll drop him off and come right back." I said nothing, only nodded again. But when I was almost downstairs, I unconsciously slowed my steps. As though sensing something, I turned back and glanced in their direction. At the traffic light, the white car was waiting quietly. Through the window, I saw Edgar had already moved into the front passenger seat. He was enthusiastically talking to Gloria, his expressions vivid and animated. As Gloria listened, she laughed softly and raised a hand to fix the strands of hair the wind had messed up beside her temple. Naturally, Edgar reached out and tucked a loose strand behind her ear for her. She didn't avoid him. She merely lowered her eyes slightly. The faint upward curve of her lips was gentle like a pool of spring water. The light turned green, and the car slowly drove off into the distance. Chapter 5. The moment I got home, I started packing my things. I folded my clothes neatly and placed them carefully into a suitcase. Suddenly my hand touched a small metal box hidden deep inside the wardrobe. After opening it, I found a handmade leather cord necklace lying inside with a tiny silver seashell hanging from it. That was the confession gift I had given Gloria back in college. At the time I had been so nervous, my voice trembled as I shoved the box into her hands. "Gloria, I don't have much money right now. I'll give you this necklace first. I promise you. One day I'll definitely take you to see the real ocean." Gloria lowered her head to look at the necklace and stayed silent for a very long time. Then she lifted her eyes, her gaze gentle and serious. "Christopher, I believe you." After that she carefully took the necklace out of the box and put it on. Holding it up toward the sunlight, she stared at it for a long while before narrowing her eyes into a smile. It was that smile that made me fall hopelessly in love with her. And in my heart, I secretly swore that I would keep this promise no matter what. I rubbed the slightly worn silver seashell, the cold sensation spreading through my fingertips. Beneath the little metal box was also an old photograph. It was a group photo. The four of us. The background was a medieval church we had passed by during one of our trips. In the picture, Luciana was practically hanging off Boris, her skirt lifted slightly by the wind. Meanwhile, Gloria stood quietly beside me, her head tilted slightly, wearing a calm and peaceful smile. The four of us were at the most beautiful stage of our youth. I still remembered that day. Sunlight poured through the towering stained glass windows, falling warmly across our bodies. Luciana looked up at the dome ceiling in amazement, unable to stop exclaiming, "It feels like just standing here cleanses your entire soul. Why don't we just hold our weddings here in the future? Wouldn't that be amazing?" But I shook my head. "It is sacred, sure. But it feels too oppressive to me. If I were getting married, I'd still prefer the seaside. Blue ocean, blue sky, comfortable and bright." At the time, Gloria turned to look at me and revealed a faint smile. Unlike Luciana, she didn't excitedly agree out loud. Instead, she simply tugged lightly at my sleeve and spoke in an almost solemn tone. "Okay. Then it's a promise." Luciana immediately leaned over beside us with a grin. "In the future, the four of us will hold our weddings together on a tropical island. You two as one couple, Boris and I as the other." She wrapped an arm around both of our shoulders and swayed playfully. "It's settled. Whoever breaks the promise is a liar." Pinky swear the four of us stacked our hands together and made that promise. Thinking about it now, it was almost laughable. To make the wedding feel more ceremonial, I had resisted going to the seaside countless times and never went even once. I wanted the first time I ever saw the ocean to be with Gloria standing beside me in a wedding dress. Our hands would be intertwined and our faces would be filled with happy smiles. But now she casually complained that the beach was too crowded and refused to go. From the living room came the sound of a key sliding into the lock. Gloria was back. I wiped my face, stuffed everything back where it belonged, then walked to the sofa in the living room and pretended to casually scroll through my phone. As she changed her shoes, she explained, "What happened with Edgar today was an accident. There was an emergency surgery this afternoon. He was standing in the operating room for several hours too. And he doesn't get along with his family, so he usually stays out late before going home anyway. That's why I brought him along to join the fun." She always had reasonable explanations for everything. Without looking up, I calmly replied, "Okay." Gloria let out a breath of relief and turned toward the bathroom to shower. A little while later my phone rang. It was the owner of the wedding boutique. "Hello, Mr. Christopher. The suits you and Mr. Boris selected yesterday have already been tailored according to your requests. When will you have time to come try them on? Will your fiancé be coming with you as well?" Because my phone was on speaker, the voice sounded especially clear in the quiet living room. The bathroom door opened. Gloria walked out wrapped in a bathrobe, water droplets still falling from her hair. She had obviously heard the conversation, and the expression on her face instantly turned cold. She silently stared at me, disappointment flickering in her eyes. Walking up to me, she spoke softly, yet every word was crystal clear. "Christopher, why are you always so selfish?" I hung up the call and looked up at her. "Is marriage something for only one person to decide? Have you ever considered my feelings?" I asked quietly in return. "Wasn't this something we agreed on a long time ago?" Gloria stared at me in silence for a very long time. Then she shook her head, her tone calm yet like a dull knife slowly carving into flesh. "You're being unreasonable. I don't have time to go to a tropical island. Go return the suits tomorrow." Chapter 6. The next day. Gloria told me that she was going to City A for a month-long medical research conference, and that she might also stay there to teach surgical practice classes for the interns. After being together for so many years, I naturally understood what this meant. She was avoiding me. There was less than a month left before Luciana and Boris's wedding. By the time Gloria returned, the wedding would already be over. Just to avoid marrying me, she had even chosen to miss Luciana and Boris's wedding as well. On the way to the airport, I remained silent the entire time. At the security checkpoint, Edgar was already there waiting with his suitcase. When he saw me, he even grinned and nodded cheerfully. "Chris, for this next month, leave Glow to me. I promise I'll make sure she eats on time and gets proper rest. So don't worry," I smiled faintly. "Then I'll leave her to you." As I watched her departing figure, I ultimately couldn't stop myself from calling out her name. "Gloria." She paused and looked toward me, standing amidst the noisy crowd. Looking at the face I had loved and known for 10 years, heat welled up in my eyes. I forced out a smile, my voice so soft it sounded almost like I was talking to myself. "Goodbye forever." The surroundings were too loud. Announcements, conversations, children crying, countless sounds mixed together into a wall of noise that swallowed my words whole. She didn't hear clearly. Frowning slightly, she mouthed the question, "What did you say?" I didn't answer. I simply turned and walked away. She seemed to sense something. A flicker of hesitation crossed her eyes as she stared at my retreating back. A strange feeling rose within her, as though after this business trip, we would never see each other again. From behind her, Edgar lightly patted her back and urged Glow, "Hurry up. It's time to board." She continued watching for a few more moments until my figure disappeared into the crowd before finally turning around and following him through security. After leaving the airport, I went alone to an amusement park. Since it wasn't the weekend, the place felt somewhat deserted. I stood beside the carousel watching it spin around and around. That time during our date, Gloria had dragged me onto the carousel. Even though there were many people and the line was long, it was one of the few free attractions. We had been so happy. She picked 2 horses side by side. One light blue, one pure white. The music began and the carousel slowly started to spin. I like this feeling. The feeling of 2 people racing forward side by side. Between the rising and falling motions of the carousel, she reached out her hand toward me, asking me to hold it. Naturally, I agreed. Her fingers were slightly cool, yet they slipped through the gaps of my fingers without the slightest hesitation. "As long as I can see you beside me while moving forward." Then that's the happiest moment of my life, ding dong. The music stopped. The carousel slowly came to a halt. After only a few turns, it had returned to the starting point once again. I sat alone on the light blue horse while the white horse beside me remained empty. I stepped out from the fenced area. My phone vibrated inside my pocket. It was a message from Boris. Tomorrow we're going to the tropical island to finalize the venue and wedding arrangements. Have you really made up your mind? I raised my head. A crack suddenly split through the gloomy clouds overhead, revealing a small patch of clear blue sky. I've made up my mind. Tomorrow I would finally fulfill my promise. Chapter 7. My fiancée's name is Rita. She was both my high school classmate and my university classmate. We had known each other for a very long time. She had admired me for years. But because of my relationship with Gloria, she had always deliberately kept her distance. It wasn't until the company lottery event day, after learning about everything that happened, that she finally confessed her feelings to me. We met up with Luciana and Boris on the tropical island. The sea breeze was strong, refreshing, and cool. Luciana affectionately linked arms with Rita, her tone carrying a hint of guilty coquettishness. "Rita, I'm really sorry. I misjudged you before. Back then I definitely talked badly about you behind your back. From now on, Christopher is entrusted to you." Rita wore a simple white shirt and blue jeans, her sleeves rolled up to reveal her fair forearms. She looked capable and energetic, radiating a youthful spirit that naturally made people want to get closer to her. Listening to Luciana's apology, she revealed a gentle smile. "Actually, I should be the one thanking all of you." She looked at me tenderly. I drifted lost along my route for so long. The sea fog was too thick and my radar stopped working. It was you who finally allowed me to dock safely. The atmosphere instantly became lighter. Boris laughed. "You're way better than Gloria and that cold personality of hers." The moment that name was mentioned, the air stiffened for an instant. Standing nearby, Luciana held a cup of juice in her hands, lightly biting her straw as she took small sips. She secretly nudged my arm. "Have you really thought this through? Do you want to give Gloria one more chance after all you two were together for 10 years? Maybe she—" Before she could finish, Boris shot her a dissatisfied look. Luciana stuck out her tongue and swallowed the rest of her words. I smiled faintly without answering. Instead, my gaze drifted toward the distant horizon. We stayed on the tropical island all the way until the wedding day approached. As a multilingual tour guide, Rita was assigned to several international cruise routes. But whenever she wasn't working, she would hurry back to the island to help me inspect venues, choose invitations, and handle wedding preparations together with me. She stayed so busy that she was endlessly cheerful about it. One night I stared at the ocean covered in silver moonlight. "So this is the sea. It's a shame that once we go back we won't get to see scenery this beautiful anymore." Rita was helping peel a grape for me. Hearing my words, she smiled while bringing the peeled grape to my lips. "The sea is just the sky pouring backward onto the land. When you look up at the sky, you're also gazing at the ocean." I bit into the grape-sweet juice, instantly spreading through my mouth. As we spent more time together over those few days, our relationship grew closer and closer. Luciana especially liked Rita. The two women often huddled together, gossiping, occasionally bursting into crisp laughter. The night before the wedding, the sea breeze brushed softly by while the sound of waves soothed the shore. Boris and I each carried a bottle of beer as we sat side by side on the beach. "Christopher." "Yeah, to be honest, at first I was really worried." He took a large gulp of beer, his voice sounding muffled. "I was afraid that out of spite you'd marry someone you didn't love, and regret it for the rest of your life." I turned my head to look at him but said nothing. But now I realize I was overthinking it. He lifted his head, his eyes bright as they reflected the endless starlight above us. "The way Rita looks at you and everything she's done for you. I can tell she genuinely treasures you in her heart." He looked at me seriously and said, "Christopher, stay happy forever." I raised my beer bottle and clinked it against his. "We'll both achieve that." Tomorrow I would wear the groom's suit and walk toward the girl who had finally anchored herself within my sea. Chapter 8. For an entire month, Gloria failed to contact me. Whenever she called, all she heard was the cold robotic voice of an automated system. Every message she sent came back with a red exclamation mark. She sat on the hotel bed, the screen glowing in front of her, yet she didn't know what she was supposed to do. In the end, she merely let out a soft sigh and put the phone down. She wasn't angry. At least that was what she told herself. She was only disappointed. I had always been reasonable and understanding. She couldn't understand why this time I insisted on making things escalate to this extent. She knew that as long as she returned and softened her attitude just a little, I would pull her into my arms again like before, and we would reconcile. That was how things had always been between us. But this time she felt that I had truly gone too far and that I needed to calm down on my own for a while. At that moment a knock sounded at the door. It was Edgar. He wore a simple black t-shirt, his hair still slightly damp, clearly having just finished showering. When he saw Gloria, he smiled and handed her the drink in his hand. "Glo, I noticed you barely ate anything tonight, so I brought you a drink to get some sugar into your system." Gloria accepted the drink. "Thank you. You should get some rest early too." "Can't sleep." Edgar noticed the still-lit computer screen behind her and frowned slightly. "Glo, don't stay up too late either. We still have meetings all day tomorrow." "Okay. Good night." Gloria gently closed the door, placed the drink on the table, and continued staring blankly at the computer screen. 2 more days passed. Gloria was organizing documents when her phone suddenly rang. The moment she answered, a complaining voice came through the line. "Miss Gloria, when did you become such a big shot? Sure, we haven't met much since graduation, but we still lived in the same dorm for years. How could you get married without even inviting me? I only found out because I saw Chris post." Gloria froze her hand, gripping the phone, beginning to tremble slightly. "What post? You mean me? Send it to me. Let me see." Hearing Gloria's reaction, the other person instantly realized something was wrong, and their tone became hesitant. Oh, okay, I'll send you the screenshots now." A few seconds later, several screenshots arrived. Gloria opened the first image. The first photo showed a boundless ocean, breathtakingly beautiful. The second showed the floor-to-ceiling windows of a hotel room where the setting sun poured in and dyed the entire space in dazzling gold. The third showed champagne glasses stacked into a towering pyramid. The fourth was a photo of Boris and me wearing groom suits together. The fifth showed me standing alone on the beach, the sea breeze brushing against me and tousling my short hair, my broad shoulders upright and firm like a towering poplar tree. Gloria stared at that photo of my back for a very long time. An indescribable emotion slowly spread from deep within her heart. It felt as though someone had slowly poured a glass of icy water into her chest, cold, heavy, and suffocating. This time, it seemed like I was truly serious. But so what? She disliked this kind of coercion. Her fingers lightly tapped the screen. She blocked my phone number and messaging account. After thinking for a moment, she opened her chat with Boris as well. A moment later, his account was deleted too. After finishing all of this, she turned off her phone and placed it face down on the table. Yet her fingers trembled slightly, unable to steady themselves no matter what. Time passed little by little. There were only 3 days left until Luciana's wedding. Meanwhile, everything remained calm and quiet in City A. I never called her from another number. None of our mutual friends tried contacting her on my behalf to persuade her either. Even Luciana seemed to have vanished without a trace, offering no news at all. Gloria sat alone in her office, staring as the sky outside gradually darkened. The calmness inside her heart slowly cracked open with a tiny fracture. And what seeped through that fracture was unease. Coincidentally, the medical research conference was also approaching its conclusion. She packed her luggage and booked the earliest flight available. She planned to return first, handle the work that had piled up, and then head to the tropical island to find me and see what exactly I was trying to do. As the airplane took off, Gloria leaned back in her seat and stared at the pale clouds outside the window while quietly making calculations in her mind. As long as I was willing to lower my head one more time over this matter, then she would agree to marry me. After all, it had already been 10 years. She felt that she couldn't betray me. Otherwise, someone as serious and devoted as me might truly not be able to endure it. Chapter 9. After Gloria's flight from City A landed, she didn't rest for even a moment. She headed straight to the hospital, and by the time she finished dealing with all the accumulated work, it was already deep into the night. For the first time ever, she requested 3 days off from the hospital. The moment she stepped out of the hospital entrance, the night breeze carried a slight chill. As she walked down the stairs, she used her phone to book a flight to the tropical island. Suddenly, a hand reached over from the side and pressed down on her phone. It was Edgar. His expression was serious, his brows tightly furrowed as he stood one step below her looking up at her. "Glow. You're going to see Chris right now. In 3 days it'll be my official evaluation exam. If you're not there, I won't feel confident. I'm kind of scared." Gloria interrupted him, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Hospital regulations don't allow anyone to take the test for you. You have the ability to pass on your own. You don't need me." Edgar lowered his gaze, his voice soft. "You know my family situation. If I don't pass, I'll have no choice but to return to my hometown." He didn't finish speaking, but Gloria already understood what he meant. This young man, who was usually spirited and confident, now had his shoulders tensed tightly. She sighed and lowered the hand holding her phone. "Then focus properly on preparing for your exam. I'll wait until after you finish before leaving." Edgar immediately lifted his head and broke into a wide grin. "Thanks, Glow." Looking at his smile, Gloria couldn't help but fall into a daze. In her memories of the carousel ride, the expression on my face when I looked at her had been exactly the same. Clear and warm, overflowing with joy. After returning home, she hurriedly splashed cold water on her face in the bathroom, trying to wash away her exhaustion. Looking at her pale reflection in the mirror, she unconsciously took a deep breath, attempting to calm the anxiety rising inside her. As soon as Edgar's exam ended, she would immediately leave for the tropical island. She wanted to stand before me in person, to tell me that she had already submitted her marriage application at the hospital and arranged her wedding leave. That she was willing to hold a wedding with me. It wasn't that she was unwilling to get married. It was simply that if someone tried to force her into making a decision, she would only feel irritated and resistant. But she had forgotten something. I had never been that kind of person. I was simply waiting. Waiting again and again. After returning home, Gloria noticed the small metal box resting on the coffee table. Inside was the necklace she had treasured for years, the one that had always been hidden deep inside the wardrobe. How had it ended up here? She reached out, opened the box, and took out the silver seashell filled with countless memories. In some hidden corner of her heart, a faint sting quietly spread. Never before had she wanted so desperately to see me. On the day of Edgar's exam, Gloria waited outside the examination room for several hours. When Edgar finally walked out after finishing, he flashed her a relaxed V-sign gesture with a grin on his face. Gloria merely nodded and turned to leave immediately. She had already booked a flight for that very afternoon. Edgar chased after her, saying he wanted to go with her and thank me in person. Gloria refused. This was something between me and her. There was no need for anyone else to get involved. Yet Edgar insisted on driving her to the airport, and Gloria eventually stopped refusing. By the time they arrived at the airport, there was still some time before boarding, so Edgar went to buy coffee. Gloria sat upright in the waiting lounge, repeatedly glancing at the time displayed on her phone screen while unconsciously rubbing the seashell necklace hanging against her chest. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was Luciana. Chapter 10. The person who had disappeared for an entire month was suddenly calling at this moment. Gloria's heartbeat skipped once. After hesitating for a few seconds, she still chose to answer. The other end of the line was noisy. There was a live band playing a wedding march mixed with the chatter of a crowd. Yet Luciana's voice still came through clearly. She seemed to have found a quieter corner, lowering her voice deliberately. "Gloria. You don't need to come anymore." Gloria's fingers tightened abruptly around the phone. "What do you mean?" Luciana remained silent for a very long time. Then she finally spoke. "This morning Christopher already got married. The wedding was held on the tropical island. You know the bride too, it's Rita. He asked me to pass a message to you. He wishes you happiness." Boris's voice faintly sounded from somewhere nearby, and Luciana hurriedly hung up the phone. Gloria sat motionless in the waiting lounge chair, her arms slowly lowering. The phone screen rested against her skirt before dimming into darkness. Voices echoed all around her, yet she couldn't hear any of them. Edgar returned carrying 2 cups of coffee. Seeing her like this, his footsteps halted instantly. Gloria said nothing. She only slowly lowered her head. The seashell necklace around her neck quietly reflected a faint silver glow beneath the fluorescent lights. She was too late. Too late by 10 years. Too late by an entire month. Too late for the very day when he finally refused to wait anymore. Edgar walked over, placed the coffee on the empty seat beside her, and crouched down in front of her. What's wrong? Gloria lifted her head and looked at the young face before her. His eyes were clear, filled entirely with concern. Suddenly she remembered that back then I had looked at her with the exact same gaze. When she stood beside the operating table and calmly completed her very first independent surgery. When she walked through the hospital corridors in her white coat while everyone greeted her respectfully. When she stayed up all night reading medical files and returned home complaining to me about how exhausting work was. I had always looked at her, and reflected in my eyes. There had only ever been her. She asked softly, Edgar, have I become ugly? Edgar shook his head, his voice turning hoarse. No. Glo is the prettiest. Gloria looked at him, and a faint smile quietly appeared at the corner of her lips. Tears slid silently down along the curve of that smile. She stood up and lightly adjusted the necklace around her neck. Let's go back. Edgar rose to his feet and took the bag from her hands. Chapter 11. Gloria never gave up. Even she herself could not explain why she remained so persistent. 10 years was such a long time. Long enough that she could no longer adapt to a life without me in it. The seashell necklace had returned to her neck once more. Every night before sleeping she would gently stroke the small shell as if confirming that these 10 years had not merely been an illusionary dream. After work every day she would drive to the building where my company was located and park downstairs. Through the car window she would stare at the glass curtain walls of the office tower, watching the lights turn on and then go dark again. Whenever she occasionally noticed the lights on my floor still glowing brightly, she would unconsciously fix her gaze there for a very long time, unwilling to look away. In her mind she imagined me still working overtime in the office. My brows slightly furrowed as I stared at the computer screen, fingers dancing lightly across the keyboard in rhythmic motions. She also wrote letters to me often. Fresh white paper torn from medical records, blank prescription sheets, and any scraps of paper she could find. Then she sealed them into envelopes and mailed them to my company. The first letter alone contained over 10,000 words. She wrote about how we first met in university. About the day I confessed to her so nervous that sweat covered my forehead. About how my fingers trembled when I handed her the necklace. She asked me if I still remembered all of it. The second letter was shorter. She wrote that she had put the seashell necklace back on. If I wanted it returned, she could personally deliver it to me. The third letter contained only a few words. Christopher, I miss you. But no reply ever came. After Edgar transferred departments, he came to see her several times. Each time she calmly received him, chatted briefly about work, and politely escorted him to the door. The last time he stood at the doorway for a very long time, one hand resting against the doorframe. Glo, are you avoiding me? She looked at him, her gaze gentle yet distant. No, focus on your work properly. Don't let yourself down. Edgar said nothing more. After glancing at her once, he turned and left. She herself no longer knew what she was still waiting for. Perhaps she was merely waiting for an opportunity. An opportunity to start over. Or perhaps an opportunity for a proper goodbye. That opportunity arrived far later than she had expected. And the sorrow it brought far exceeded anything she had imagined. It was an autumn evening deep into late fall. As usual, Gloria parked downstairs outside my company. The moment she turned off the engine, she saw two people walking out of the building. It was Rita and me. Almost instinctively, she pushed open the car door and stood beside the vehicle, staring at us from across half the street. I seemed much calmer and more composed now. My entire demeanor looked relaxed, and there was a sense of fulfillment in my expression that had never existed before. Gloria had always known that I was handsome. She knew it from the very first moment she met me in university. But never before had she thought I looked this dazzling. So dazzling that her gaze could barely leave me. Just as she was about to walk toward us, I turned around and carefully protected Rita by my side. Only then did Gloria notice the slight curve of Rita's swollen belly. I lowered my head and whispered something to Rita. Rita looked up and laughed as she lightly punched my chest. I laughed too and reached out to tuck away the strands of hair the wind had blown loose around her face. Then I lifted my head, my gaze landing on Gloria across the street. But it paused only briefly. There was no surprise. No panic. None of the emotions Gloria had hoped to see appeared in my eyes. I said something softly to Rita. Following my gaze, Rita looked toward Gloria as well. After nodding slightly, she entered the car first on her own. I walked toward Gloria and stopped 3 steps away from her. "Gloria, long time no see." Gloria opened her mouth, only to realize her throat felt tightly blocked by something. Greedily, she stared at me, at my face illuminated by the warm glow of the setting sun. "You." Her voice was so hoarse it was nearly inaudible. "You're going to become a father. Congratulations." It's already been 3 months. Gloria felt as though something shattered inside her chest. Like the thick ice covering a winter lake slowly collapsing beneath unbearable pressure, cracking apart with sharp fracturing sounds. I looked at her, seeming slightly surprised by how calm she appeared. Then I smiled with relief. "Thank you." Several seconds of silence passed. "Gloria, it's over between us now." I looked at her sincerely. "I'm very happy now. You should start your own new life too. I wish you happiness." Gloria stood motionless where she was, watching my car merge into the endless stream of traffic before finally disappearing into the distant twilight. This time, she ultimately did not run after me again, because she understood that some distances had already become impossible to cross. Chapter 12. Later, through the fragmented bits and pieces Luciana occasionally mentioned, Gloria slowly pieced together my daily life. Rita and I settled down on the tropical island. Rita applied to adjust her sailing routes so she could spend more time with the family. Meanwhile, I opened a uniquely styled themed cafe by the seaside. Inside the cafe were not only shelves of books but also all kinds of small trinkets Rita had carefully selected from around the world. Every day was immersed in the rich aroma of coffee and the endless sound of ocean waves. Luciana and Boris would occasionally visit us on the island. Every time they returned, Luciana would still go see Gloria afterward. The moment she entered, she would kick off her high heels neatly before curling comfortably into the sofa with a pillow hugged in her arms, enthusiastically telling Gloria about my recent life. Meanwhile, Boris would silently lean against the doorway, never interrupting and never looking at Gloria. Luciana also brought a photograph. In the photo, I wore a comfortable linen shirt with the sleeves casually rolled up. One arm wrapped around Rita while the other held a baby swaddled in blankets, my smile bright and radiant. As though I had finally found the sea that truly belonged to me. On the day of the baby's 1-month celebration, Luciana visited the island. She posted many photos online. One of them showed me holding the baby while the 3 of us sat together on a seaside reef. Sunlight spilled warmly over us as Rita and I lowered our heads together to gaze at the tiny life in our arms, tenderness flowing through our eyes. Rita leaned against my shoulder while I turned slightly and softly kissed her hair. The 3 of us leaned against one another like a living painting. Peaceful years. Quiet happiness. Gloria stared at that photograph for a very long time. She once believed we still had endless years left to waste together. She believed I would always remain by her side like a shadow that never left. But later, how did we become complete strangers to each other? She became trapped within that question, unable to escape it. Eventually, she moved away. She relocated to a place where no one knew her. Perhaps time truly could heal all wounds. Yet every late night she would still dream of that endless blue ocean. Dream of the man dressed in a groom's suit standing on the beach, smiling at her. Then saying softly, "Gloria, I waited for you for a very long time." And afterward she would wake abruptly from the dream, staring at the pitch-black darkness outside the window while a dull ache spread through her chest. She thought that she had already become forever trapped within this tragic ending. Because the person she once deeply loved already had a ship willing to sail within his sea, leaving only her alone upon an endless wasteland. Desolate, lonely, and utterly helpless.